Chapter 9, Construction Survey. The purpose of the construction service is to mark the route of the guidance construction that may be done in the two stages, especially areas a significant amount of the earthwork grading are needed. In the first stage, enough marks are defined in the basic track of the grade and drainage ditches. During this stage, culvert locations should be checked to ensure the final track evaluation will allow room for the sufficient cover over the culverts. In the second stage, the stages are set in final grading construction, including spiral curve location, grade sliding, slope markers, bridge abutments, culvert, center lines, frog switch points, location determined. Now, it is best to set the stakes only at a short time before they will need to be minimized. Chance of being distributed guidance on any stake setting is given in Table 9.1. Track categories, tangent curves. The track categories suggested interval feet, tangents of 100 feet, curves up to 33 degrees, 100 feet, 3 to 6 degrees, 50 feet, and over degrees of 25 feet. Inspection materials. Inspection before installation is recommended that all materials, new and second-hand, may be inspected before work begins. In a question concerning the materials and much better to handle them before materials has been installed. Ties. Although inspection of the ties at plants and preferred and not always possible. However, upon the delivery of the project site, all ties should be inspected to ensure compliance with the project specifications. Ties are not meeting specification will be rejected. The inspector should receive a copy of the treatment report with the treatment plan. Check the date of the manufacturer, brand, area presented on the ties. The relay rail is better than the project. It will be inspected with wear and external defects in the battery, engine burns, etc. And per project specification, standard gauges are available to check on wear. 2-3 saving salvageable materials. When moving the railway, other track materials are stockpile and insulation and transfer another insulation rail-like weight and section of the other track material like size and design should be stacked nearly together. Normal spikes will not be salvaged. Care should be taken with it when removing the rail or other track material to prevent damage from the use of usable materials. A torch should never be used to cut a rail, joint bars, or other salvage materials during the removal. For subgrade and drainage, the subgrade is inspected during each stage of the preparation, handling, installation, geotextiles, and maximum type of exposure to geotextiles to sunlight from the removal of the protective shipping cover to the final placement should be no more than 7 days. Equipment should not be allowed to operate over an area covered with the geotextiles unless there is at least 6 inches covered with subballast or ballast. Surface drainage should be directed away from the geotextile material to prevent contamination. The minimum overlap distance, the longitude transverse directions should be 3 feet. Drainage of other earthwork near the track should be completed before final subgrade preparation begins to minimize the likelihood of the distribution of the final subgrade surface and getting soil to the ballast, while also providing the draining work site. The subdraining installation should be checked before being covered. The ditch evaluation section checked before the track work begins. 5 track construction subballast placement on new construction subgrade surfaces should be inspected before geotextiles or subballast is placed. Subballast is placed on the prepared subgrade compared to providing work surfaces. Track construction subballast should be placed to the lines of grade shown on the project plans compared to 95% of the ASTM D1557 laboratory maximum dry density. Track construction sequence. Typical track construction sequence as follows. Place ties on a subballast as they are required spacing. Place tie plates on the ties. Place the line rail on the tie plates and spike them in place. Install joint bars and tightening bolts. Install opposite rail by first checking the gauge, spiking every 4th tie, and then spiking the remaining ties. Install rail anchors at the stage final surface, but before addressing the ballast. Unload and distribute the ballast. Lift and tamp track about 1 inch below the final evaluation of the 3 to 4 inches lift, and adding ballast as needed for each lift. The tamping machine will also align the track and place proper super evaluation into the curvature operation. Check grade and line stakes clearance. If practical, run over the track with at least 10 passes of an engine or an engine at the heaviest load of the cars before the final surface. 11. Raise tracks to the final surface. 12. Dress or shape the ballast section. C. Ballast unloading. Large amounts of the ballast, several hundred tons or more, if most efficiently, effectively unused, unload using railroad hoppers. For installation, having a locomotive, the provisions of the government locomotive, the crew to have move the ballast, and the contractor may result in a lower unit of the cost for the ballast distribution. Appropriate arrangements should be provided with the contract documents during the pre-construction meetings to ensure effective government locomotive to assist contracting and placing in the ballast. When the trucks or other automotive equipment are used to place the ballast, care should be taken of preventing rutting and through the improper drainage from the sub-ballast or subgrade. Any ruts that are formed should be leveled or graded to drain prior to the containing of the ballast placement. D. Rail installation. Rails should be laid one at a time with the allowance for expansion provided between the rail ends in accordance with Table 9.2. Rail 2, Table 9.2, rail joint gap. Rails up to 33 feet long. Railway temperature Fahrenheit of 10 degrees, 10 to 14. Temperatures in railways 39 to 106 feet. Rail gap, ending gap, railway temperature and rail end gap. Gaps between the rail ends insulated joints should only be sufficient to permit insertion in standard endpoints. During the railway lining, standard railway thermometers should be used to determine the rail temperature. The thermometer should be laid close on the website of the railway base to shaped from the sun, advancing the lay operation and left layer long enough to accurately record the temperature. Installing the relay rail. When relay rail is used, the carrier should be exercised matching adjacent rails to minimize the joint mismatch. Any mismatch at the rail ends must be grounded, welded, or provided proper match. Building up the worn end of the welding may be only done by people with proper training and experience and equipment to perform this operation. Relay rail relayed previous gauge with the side facing old field sides becoming new gauge side unless required to match existing wear patterns, whether either other flow nearly square edge of the left on the new gauge side of the edge must be grounded at a grounded profile similar to that found on the new rail. F. Surfacing and lining. During the surfacing operation, every tie should be received 2 full insertions of tamping heads at each end of each lift. The joint ties on the joint side only should get an additional insertion. If the raising of the track creates voids under the tie centers, the void space should be filled with lightly but not tamped. When warning, tamping feet on the tamping machine will not properly compact the ballast under the ties. Ties that pull the loose during surface should be lifted and plugged and replaced and spiked and retamped. 5. The track at the end of the open deck bridges should be maintained at the same grade of the track on the bridge for at least 25 feet and beyond the bridge abutments and the transition smooth to meet the established track grades. 6. The track should not be tampered in frozen ballast conditions or in snow if present. G. The switch stand installation. Switch stand is normally installed so when the switch is lined in with the normal main route, the connection rod keeps the point closed with pulling rather than pushing force. In most cases, this will mean installing the stand on the diverging side of the turnout. When the throw stand is used, the handle should point toward the frog when the switch is lined for the normal route. 6. Quality control and quality assurance. Main installation office design inspectors who are knowledgeable do not have inspectors who are knowledgeable, experienced in railroad work. In this case, it is strongly recommended that the inspection should be obtained from the engineering firm that specializes in railroad design and construction. Initial work is often covered over the final stages. It is strongly recommended that the railway work inspected throughout the process. All relay rails should be ultrasonically tested after installation. Scheduling the contract will specialize and operations should be done well in advance to ensure availability at least low cost. 7. As built and final drawings upon completion of the construction set of the red line drawings should be given to the installation engineer. Final as built drawings will be produced and showing actual track location, grade, curvatures, complete curve data, rail weight selection, grade crossing, location types and crossing signal circuit layout, draining structures, other aspects of the track construction. These drawings will be given to the installation and engineering within 6 months after the construction has been completed. Appendix A, you have TM58224 soil stabilization pavement area AR 420 72 pavements for railroads, bridges, and associated appurtenances. Army Air Force TM 5628 AFR 91 railroad track standards. TM 58224 AFM 885 Chapter 4 drainage of either other areas than airfields. TM 5882-2 AFM 8878 8 and 7, Chapter 5, General Provisions, Geometrical Roads, Streets, and Walks, Open Storage Areas. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration, Manual Uniform Traffic Control Device in the Street and Highways. Railway Highway Guide Crossing Handbook, Non-Governmental Publications, Association of American Railroads. Signal Manual Recommended Practices, Washington, D.C. The AREMA, American Railway Engineering Maintenance Way Association Manual, Railway Engineering Volume 1 and 2, published annually, Washington, D.C. Portfolio Track Plan, Work Plans, published annually in Washington, D.C. American Society of Testing Materials, American Wood Preserve Association. Chapter Grade B is a ruling grade example. Rolling grade example. Track C is sample track rehabilitation report. I'm wondering how many pages that is. We'll go over that some other time. Appendix C is left to do.